What is so hard in real estate that people can move into real estate?
The only way you get rich is if you jump in the right stream that's flowing the right way. You just take a little bit off the top. One of them was cash flow quadrant, and that teaches basically the different mindsets about money. There's employee, self-employed, big business, investor. And if you're going to be an investor, you have to think about money differently than you do if you're an employee.
How can someone start real estate if the person doesn't have money?
There's a couple of different ways. I got a house given to me for free one time.
Thank you so much, Robbert, for coming to the show. And I'm so excited. You accepted our invitation. And I think, my viewers and everyone is ready to listen to, your inspirational stories and your journey to, becoming a nurse and also an entrepreneur. Like how you balance these two field is so different and it's so crazy, and we are so happy to listen from you. So can we let us know a little bit about Robbert Lakeland?
So you want to know about nursing, or you want to know about
yourself?
Just myself? Well, I'm kind of an eclectic person. I got a wide range of talents. I grew up wrestling and playing football, and here in the Quad Cities, but on the Iowa side in Pleasant Valley. Then I went on to went to college. During college, did some cage fighting. And then I got into nursing, and then I tried to find my way there. And probably about 5 years in, I took over my uncle's restaurant. Me and my mom did that for a while, for about 5 years. And then I got into the ER as a registered nurse. And then I started doing real estate like right as the pandemic hit. And I moved. My dad had moved down south to Southern Illinois, and I found some houses that were like next to nothing to buy. And then I started learning how to fix them up and started renting them out.
I see, that's so inspiring. So at what point do you thought of going to the nursing school? Is it something that you ever dreamt of going to the nursing school when you were a kid, or how did the whole thing started?
Well, I took anatomy and physiology in high school, and I was good at that, and I always liked science. So when I was going to graduate, I figured I wanted to go to college into some kind of vocational training that I could get a job straight away. And I guess I could have went into welding or pipe fitting or some kind of skilled trade, but I chose nursing. And it was way harder than I thought it was going to be.
How long have you been in the nursing field?
So I graduated in 2009. So I've been a nurse for about 15, 16 years now.
That's almost, not almost like my age, but close. Yeah, so, and you are so hardworking, Robbert. Like, seriously, I still can't fathom how you be able to work like almost 12 hours in a row, like back to back to back to back, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. How do you do that?
It's challenging, but you can get on a rhythm. Right now, I'm working 6 12s in a row. And then
So crazy, right?
And then I drive 5 hours back to Mount Vernon, and then I work on the rental properties and stuff, doing all kinds of different stuff for like the next 6 to 8 days. And then I drive 5 hours back, and then I do 6 more in a row. And then right now I'm doing night shift. It's not my favorite, but it's easier if you're on days to do that. But it's a challenge.
Are you like a beast or something? I just want to understand Robbert, because it's so challenging, like, to be honest, for some people.
Well, I grew up in a family of workers. So like, if you want to spend time with my dad, you have to have some type of a project. You have to be hanging a door or fixing a wall or doing something. So originally I just started finding things to do self-improvement wise at the house I was living at. I'd be like, hey dad, help me patch this drywall. Okay. Help me fix this plumbing. Okay. And then I just like learned all these things and started using it. And I was like, the thing I liked about real estate is that, if I'm working on a house, that action is cumulative, right? So everything that I do, this week builds on last week. It's like a math problem almost. But when you clock in to your 9 to 5 job, mine's 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., but you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're okay. It's 10 o'clock. I'm passing this med again. It's not really different, and it doesn't build on itself. Whereas being your own, I mean, I guess if you're running a retail store, eventually you get to that point where it's always the same, but you're always building. Does that make sense? You're building an infrastructure, and then you don't have to rebuild it unless you messed up on it somehow, and then you have to redo it. But
your dedication and hard working towards your pursuit of the nursing dream and also entrepreneur is such an amazing. So I would want to know what is so hard in real estate that people can move into real estate.
what's so hard about it, or what's easy about it?
Because it sounds so easy when you are saying that, hey, I bought a properties, I started renting, and my uncle is plumbing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds so easy. But is there any particular thing that you'd want to know about real estate, the difficult aspects that people might not talk about it, that you think those are the things that are preventing people to get into real estate?
Well, before I got into it, I started reading. I started reading a lot of books on it. Mainly, I used Robert Kiyosaki's like Rich Dad Poor Dad series. He has a whole series of books. It's not just that book. That book is like an introductory, but Robert Kiyosaki takes his team of like lawyers, tax attorneys, stuff like that, and each one of them like basically write their own book and say, hey, this is this aspect. And so I kind of went through a bunch of these books. And the thing that was exciting about me is that I was like, okay, I'm thinking along the right terms, right? And if I can just apply these terms, one of them was cash flow quadrant. And that teaches basically the different mindsets about money. There's an employee, self-employed, big business, investor. And if you're going to be an investor, you have to think about money differently than you do if you're an employee, And I think that I oftentimes don't realize how much I actually do know until I sit down and have a conversation and start answering questions or start just rambling about things, For instance, people say that the BBB method is or the Burr method or whatever it is. It's like basically they buy it, they renovate it, and they refinance it and they repeat it. But you can't do that with a sixplex. You can't get started with a sixplex. You can't get started. Like most people can maybe afford one home, but they don't know how like the mortgages work. Does that make sense? So a lot of the things that people don't understand is the details, So like they go into cap rate and all this stuff, but a lot of the details that you can gather is just by asking a bunch of questions. You don't have to wait until all the lights are green. You just kind of start going, and when you hit a red light, you figure out that red light that's in front of you, and then you keep on going.
So someone may ask, it's something that I realized, at the nursing setting, since I'm in the nursing school and I also work at the hospital. And I just found out that, people work as a nurse and maybe as a PCT. That's what they do, like literally for their whole life. And, you have been able to combine, real estate or entrepreneur and nursing, right? So if someone can start as of today and the person is a nurse, she would want to invest some of her money to that field, right? And now she has about maybe $2,000 or $5,000, how is the person going to start real estate? Or how can someone start real estate if the person doesn't have money?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. So I got a house given to me for free one time. So yeah, so one time you have to be creative. So in this particular instance, there was a house that was on the demolition list. Okay, for the city, they were going to demolish it. They wanted him to pay $5,000 to demolish it. Well, as soon as I put it under contract, that takes it off of that demolition list, and so then he's no longer on the hook for that $5,000. So the house had terrible roof, had a bunch of stuff that needed fixed on it. So when I went to give him the check, actually he asked me for, I think it was like $500 or something like that. It was over that I was going to be paying. And he goes, you know what? You saved me this $5,000. Just take it, because it was more of a hassle to him than it was for me. And so I got a free house. So that was just about like walking around the neighborhood and saying, okay, who owns that house? Who owns this house? Because there's nobody lives there. You can just basically go up to the county clerk's office and ask for the public. It's all public record, so you can ask for like who pays the taxes, and then if you know who pays the taxes, and you know who owns the home. If you know who owns the home, you can send them a letter, you can email them, you can call them, whatever. It just kind of takes a little bit of due diligence to kind of find deals like that, and then you got to be handy. So I've been lucky that my father's been able to teach me a bunch of stuff. Whatever I don't know, I hire out done. But that's obviously a lot more expensive. But you can learn drywall, basic plumbing stuff, how to fix a sink, how to install a dryer or something like that. And so that basically you just, you figure it out as you go.
So yeah, so what do I try to say is that if you want to find a house, right, you go to Cork County.
So basically what I do is I find houses when I'm walking my dogs. So I just walk my dogs around the neighborhood. And as I'm walking, I'll either see something for sale or I'll see something that I think, that the neighborhood's okay. I started looking at several different factors, like how the neighborhood is, what the house looks like, if there's anybody that lives there, what the roof is like. And you're just walking around and saying, okay, you just pick a house. Well, you just write down the address, and then you can go to the county courthouse. And yeah, a lot of places have it online. In the particular town that I'm in, it wasn't online. So I had to go to the actual courthouse, or city hall, basically, and find out who was paying, go to the city assessors, and see like what the tax, who owns who's paying the taxes, who owns the property, that sort of thing. And then you go about contacting them. And it's just basically like, what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with this house? Sometimes they'll tell you they don't want to talk to you. So the first one guy I did this with, at first he wanted a big price for a house, but I'd already been at the house. Like you could walk in because the door was off. He's like, well, I want this price for it. Well, I was like, do you know that there's no furnace in the house? Do you know that the windows are broken in the house? He didn't know that because he hadn't been in the area for a while. So I ended up negotiating with him. I read another book called Never Split the Difference, a great negotiation book. It's called Never Split the Difference, and it's basically an FBI negotiator is talking about how he uses his negotiation tactics with hostage situations in business. It's really fascinating. But basically, the gist of it was, hey, if you have to figure out what this person wants. They may not necessarily want money. Maybe they just want out of this deal. Maybe they want to, one house they wanted to sell it because somebody had died and they wanted to pay for a funeral. So really, then that becomes the priority for them. It's not really the price of the house. It's really what this house can do for them. So then you can do that thing and get the house. So it's really about being creative. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this house that I negotiated for, I ended up getting like several houses. I got I think I got 10 houses for an average price of like $5,000 a piece. And it's because I met with this guy several times, and I just said, look, like, these are causing you this type of pain, right? They're only going to get worse if you don't do anything with them. They're a liability on your balance sheet. They're not an asset. Like, if you had an asset, it'd be different. We'd be talking in different terms. But I'm really trying to take a burden off of your shoulders instead of trying to like load your pockets. Does that make sense?
Right.
So it changed the dynamic of the conversation when you figure out what they want, and then you try to give them that. So you can be more creative, and that's where you don't necessarily need to have cash on hand. You can also, if you have a good credit score, you can borrow money.
That's what I wanted to ask. I was like, I've always heard stories where people have a bunch of real estate houses and they never paid a dime. They always say they went to the bank and had a loan and paid for it. So I was like, how does that work? It might sound easy. Maybe people are just raising stories and all that. How does that work?
So it depends on whether you're going for a residential loan or a commercial loan, or whether you're doing an investment property or you're doing like your own residential home. I don't know the exact rules on it, but if you're doing just a home for yourself, right, you can qualify for a residential loan that is amortized over 30 years, up to a fourplex. All right. A lot of people will do just single family homes, but you can do up to a fourplex. Then,
and you apply it in the bank, right?
Yeah. So a lot of times you just need that 20%. Sometimes you can do 5% down, but that's usually like first time home buyer. If you're going to do anything, like if you're a foreigner, or you're something like, they want a little bit more skin in the game. So you're going to want to do like 20%, up to 15 to 20% down. So if you have $100,000 house, you're going to have to put $20,000 down. So you have to find that $20,000, right? So that's what they're talking about when they're like, hey, I borrowed the money for this house, right? So now, instead of having to come up, let's say the house is worth $100,000, you no longer have to come up with the $100,000. You only have to come up with that $20,000, right? So now you have to be creative in thinking, well, do I want to get a personal loan? Do I want to have somebody gift that to me? Do I want to pool money from relatives and friends and family? Do I want to take get as high a balance on a credit card as I can and then give myself a cash advance? Because they're not going to let you just take a credit card and swipe it for the balance. It will have to be in your account as cash and be counted at that before you go looking at the bank, because the bank is going to be looking at your transactions for a while. But you can do an advance on like a credit card. My first house I bought for $2,000 because nobody else wanted it in a neighborhood that nobody wanted. If you looked up the crime statistics in the area that I was doing it in, it was one of the number one cities in Illinois for crime per capita, right? And then I decided to do not only that, but I did Airbnb, and everybody thought I was crazy. It's working. So like, I'm not so crazy, but also it's in Mount Vernon. So in Mount Vernon, there's an interstate that goes through there. There's 500,000 cars a day that go through on the interstate. All you got to do is get a couple of dollars from those 500,000 cars. Does that make sense? So you're not really trying to make money off of it. So it depends on what stream you're trying to jump into, because cash flow is flowing like water, right? The only way you get rich is if you jump in the right stream that's flowing the right way. You just take a little bit off the top. Does that make sense? So you're not actually creating anything. You want to get into that flow. Like AI, for instance, there's a flow going. You want to get into that flow, right? Or like online retail. You want to get into that flow because you're going to take some of that energy out of that system. But you got to almost like, or you can create your own flow. That's what I've been doing with the real estate.
So people read books, people apply strategies, people do a lot of stuff to create success in real estate. So do you have to be lucky enough to be successful in real estate? Do you think those people who comes out success are lucky or something?
I think they're lucky if they get it right on the first try, because It's going to take you some tinkering, and then you got to not die in the process, like your business, right? So, for instance, like the pandemic hit, nobody was paying their rent. So then I had to figure out how to go about getting their rent paid. Well, then there were these programs. So then I had to approach the tenants and try to get them to fill out paperwork, and then fill out our side of the paperwork to get that rent paid. And then I could get that rent paid for like 12 months or whatever months. But like for that amount of time that they're not paying, you have to survive. Right. So you have to survive long enough so that you can thrive. And a lot of times, like, that's what it is. It's just it's just white knuckle trying to survive until you're successful. And then once you're successful, you look back and go, oh yeah, it was easy. You just do it like this. But like, it's also like not a straightforward blueprint, because there's a saying that, if a man never steps in the same creek twice, because it's not the same creek and he's not the same man, right? And so,
What does that mean?
well, each deal is kind of encapsulated in that time period, right? So something that might work today might not have worked 10 years ago, right? It's not the same market anymore, right? It's not my grandparents' market anymore. So now, instead of just, okay, so let's say I own a house. I don't have to just rent it long term. I could rent it short term. I could rent it medium term. I could list it on Airbnb. I've got, I could go on Verbo or booking.com. Like, I've got all these ways that I can now do deals. Whereas 10 years ago, I couldn't do that, right? 10 years ago, I could never get the exposure off the interstate. It had to be on the interstate instead of just like out into the community. Does that make sense? So it's like, and then in 10 years time, that stream will change again. And so my business will never be the same. So like, each time you step in the stream, it's a different stream and it's a different man. Does that make sense? It's different every time. So you have to be able to navigate those hurdles that come your way each time. And it's going to be different each time. And I think that's the thing that's so hard about it for a lot of people, is there's no set, follow these 5 steps and you'll be successful. It doesn't work that way. It's like, yeah, if, ands, or buts. There's like each step.
So you spoke about something that you can do in 10 years ago than current years, or maybe at this present time. Do you think making money currently is so easy with the AI, with the tools, the resources that we have? Do you think making money or getting into real estate is very easy as compared to 10 years ago?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's different, because in some respects it's a lot easier, right? Once I have the house, okay, now I can get a big audience really quick, right? I can market it really fast. I can get this person off the interstate to come stay at my place. I can get this person from the hospital who's working as a nurse to come stay at one of my Airbnbs. Boom, really fast. But banks don't want to lend you money as easily as they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. The credit system is harder. I think that a lot of places where people want to be is difficult, because the price for entry is so much higher. I think the average home price in the United States is like $400,000. But that's not the average home prices that I'm dealing with. The average home prices I'm dealing with, like I said, was like the 10 houses, average of $5,000 now. But that's before I redo the roof and the drywall and the plumbing and the electrical and the flooring and the facade and all this stuff, the landscaping and stuff. So there's a lot that I do that goes into these properties, and then I maintain them at a level where I would live at. And I figure if I do that, then the traveling workers that are my clients, they'll stay at those places.
So do you know, is there any particular thing that we are supposed to deal with as Gen Z generation, is it maybe a mindset problem or fear problem that we think we can get things done and forward?
Uh, like analysis paralysis type deal. I think that a lot of people, like I said, they wait for all the green lights to light up, and you don't have to do that. Um, my particular journey, I think, is a lot different. If I had to do it over again, I'd probably do it a little bit differently. Um, but I think it's just they just they look at a blank slate, blank sheet of paper, and they go, okay. Like the cool thing about the blank sheet of paper is I can create anything I want. The scary thing is there's no guardrails. There's no structure. There's no instructions. It's just a blank sheet of paper. And it's whatever you can create on that sheet of paper. And I think that people have a hard time starting because they don't have a framework to start with. They don't have an instruction. They don't have I can do these 3 steps and then I got to figure it out. It's like, no, just figure it out from the get-go.
That's hard.
You can do anything until someone stops you from doing that thing. Let them tell you that you can't do this thing. Okay, and I'll take this back to wrestling. Right, when I was wrestling, I wrestled for like 15, 20 years. I was 7 years old all the way up, and people would say, "Well, isn't that move illegal?" And I was like, "Well, you let the ref tell you what's illegal." And if he says you're being too rough, he'll tell you you're being too rough. So everything is legal one time until you get warned. Don't do it again. So like, and I think that comes into play with. I tend to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. Okay. Oh, I have this property I want to put a bathroom in. Okay, I put a bathroom in. Well, oh, I needed to get permits for that. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm asking for forgiveness instead of permission. Because a lot of people will go ask, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And they'll get no, 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 no. And they go and do the thing and they're like, well, okay, you weren't really supposed to do that, but it's done now. And they like action over action is the best thing to do. You just got to do things.
Wow. That's such inspiring. So, is there any common mistake, people should know about real estate, because you don't want to get into real estate and lose our money and everything? What are some mistakes that we have to avoid when you want to get real estate?
You want to make sure that you have enough money coming in and that your deal is enough cash positive so that it makes sense. So if you're only making $15 a month on a deal, but something goes wrong, you're really building a house of cards. You don't want to do that. So, or some people, they'll get that $15 and multiply it 15,000 times, and it's no big deal because they've got so many units turning. So that's really just basically it depends on what you got, because you got to realize if a house has a mortgage on it, you're going to have to carry that mortgage. Any money that you borrow to get everything started. So let's say you got the house, right? And that was tough because you had to come up with that 20%. And then you got the mortgage. So you've got the payment for the 20%, you've got the mortgage, and now you've got to get that. Now you've got a time period where you're carrying those costs, but there's nobody in the house because you got to do your renovations. So you got to like carry that cost. And then when you finally get the house up and running, that mortgage or that payment that's coming in has to carry all those costs plus give you some back, right? And I think that people just get, I don't know. I think it's easy to get lost in that shuffle because you do that. You do that the first couple of times and you don't have a blueprint. You're just trying to make it work. You're just trying to figure out problems. Okay, I got the one house, and then the next house is a little bit easier, and the next house you get kind of like your own kind of system going, and then that works.
Okay, so I have 3 more questions, Robert. So I'm a nurse. Every paycheck, I get about $3,000, or let's say $4,000. I have kids, I pay for their tuition and everything. How can I locate money for groceries, for tuition, for my rent, and get some savings for real estate? How can I balance all these things together to get me to have a balance or to have some savings for real estate if I want to go into real estate? How do I do that?
Well, you got a couple of tools that I really like with nursing that helps. One is your time. I mean, a lot of times nurses
No one can work like 6 rows, like 12.
6 12s in a row. Well, you can. That's the thing. You can. A lot of times they don't like you to work a bunch of overtime. All right. My brother, he's a blue collar worker. He makes a ton of money. He makes most of his money he makes is on overtime. His base pay is just that's just the base, and then he really looks forward to like that overtime. So for him, he'll work 12 hours a day every single day for months, and he'll just bank that overtime. Nursing doesn't give you that ability a lot of times. Because they're worried about burnout. You're dealing with patients, that sort of thing. But generally speaking, you're working 3 12s in a week and you got 4 12s off, right? If you're not it's challenging because you have to switch your sleep schedule and stuff. Like banks aren't open in the middle of the night and stuff like that. But you have those 4 days off. It gets really challenging with kids. I didn't have any kids. So I was able to utilize those 4 days to either work on something, do paperwork, learn what I needed to learn. I had those 4 days to do extra stuff, whereas a lot of people, they don't. A lot of people are working 8 hours every single day, 5 days a week. And then they're getting all their stuff done on the weekends. I just don't follow that traditional schedule. So I've been able to utilize that time and not only that time, but the money I make is different too, because you can work weekends, get a differential. You can work nights, get a differential. You can work in a specialty and get a differential. You can work, you can travel and you make more money that way. So there's a lot of different ways to make just a little bit more money than your peers in nursing.
It's like you have a lot of money. So how can you give us like an estimate about what you receive for 2 weeks? Maybe I guess that might, I don't know, because it sounds like a lot, like the differentials and everything. Plus you don't have kids, so you're able to allocate money to different places and still have some money for savings for real estate and everything. But like I just don't know how you do it, Robert. It's so different. So how can you allocate money to all these things, like having children, tuition payment, and getting all this stuff for real estate, or maybe savings for different businesses? How can you do that?
Well, like if I was going to do it over again, for instance, what I would do is I would buy a house, and I would buy a house in a good location. Like here in the Quad Cities, I'd probably pick Davenport, right near between Palmer, Ambrose, and Mercy One, and I'd get a duplex at least, or I'd want like a triplex or a fourplex, because like I said, you can qualify for a residential loan for triplex or fourplex. So then your payment is going to be less than you're renting, right? So you could get a triplex for $150,000. Your payment's going to run you around $1,000, somewhere in there, depending on the taxes, And then you're staying in one of those. You're renting out the other two. So that other two is basically going straight to, you're not paying for rent. You see what I mean? And so then you're making a little bit of money. And so the swing to the positive. So let's say you're making $2,000 and your payment is $1,000. Well, you're making $1,000. and you're not paying the payment. So your whole overall swing to the good is $2,000. Granted, that's everything rented and everything's running smooth, everything like that. And then you use that and just kind of like save up like a battery and then do the next deal. And then save up and then do the next deal. That's probably the safest way. I didn't do it that way. I just went all in all the time.
So my last question, Robert, my last question, Robert. So if you were to rewind time and advise Robert at the age of 21, what would be the best advice that you can give to yourself?
21. I was still in college at 21. I would have probably went forward with the nursing thing, but I don't know. There's still a lot of stuff I would have done different, probably. I could have, I don't think I would have done the restaurant, though. I think I would have skipped the restaurant, although the restaurant gave me a big base for how business works.
You started a restaurant in college?
No, like just after.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I took over my uncle's restaurant, and I grew it and I did all the things, and it was really good business experience because I learned how basically like if you think of the kitchen like manufacturing, and you think of like the servers as distribution, and then you have your vendors that you're getting the food from, and then you have like your prep work, which is like before manufacturing all this stuff. And then you have our advertising and you have politics because of the local markets and taxes and accounting and all these things. Like it gives you like a crash course and all that stuff, but the margins are so thin that they're super hard. So I probably wouldn't have done a restaurant again. If I had to do it over again or advise myself back, I'd probably get into real estate sooner. And I'd probably do it, like I said before, like buying the 3plex, 4plex, something like that, and then going on. Instead of how I did it, was I just started buying cheap houses and then fixing them as fast as I could.
I mean, that's the way to go, Robert. And is there any advice that you can share to myself, because I really need it, and also my audience listening to my beautiful and wonderful show?
Rich Dad Poor Dad was a great book. That Never Split the Difference is a great book. Cash Flow Quadrant teaches you like how the different aspects of money go. If I were going to get into real estate too, if you got people that you trust, you can form an LLC. And then instead of having that come up with that, let's say that property is 100,000 and you're going to come up with 20%, you don't have to come up with that 20% yourself. Maybe you get 4 other people, right? And you come up with only 5,000. And then you buy the property under the LLC name. You have to split the profits 4 ways, right? But you're also splitting the risk 4 ways, right? So then you don't always have to come up with all the money. You see what I mean? Like each deal is so individualistic. Each deal is so different. And you just have to figure out a way forward, right? You just have to have, your faith question. You just have to have faith that you're able to figure that question out and just move forward and say, okay, this problem's not surmountable. What am I missing? I know I can figure this problem out.
That's a good advice, Robert. And I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining our show today. And thank you guys for listening to today's episode 3. And I hope to see you guys next week. Have a great day for now. Peace out. Thank you so much, Robert, for honoring our invite. I'm so grateful. So what do you have for today? What are you going to prepare?
We got tuna tacos. This is just a at-home snack that I like to make. It's super easy, and you don't need anything but these ingredients right here.
Okay, I see. And can you just walk us through the ingredients?
Yeah, so we got dill pickles. Doesn't matter what brand, whatever brand you like.
Okay.
I got salt here. I use a special seasoning with my family. Usually it's called mama salt, but we're gonna use just plain salt today.
Okay.
Regular yellow mustard, Hellman's mayo. It can't be Miracle Whip. It's gotta be Hellman's. We got some tortillas here. Any tortillas will do, and we got some tuna.
All right, let's get started.
All right, so we've already got the tuna opened up. We use a knife, but usually use a can opener. Whatever you got though. I'm gonna open up the mayo and the mustard the same way.
So Robert, you have a lot of food in the system. Why did you choose this food?
This food, because it's super easy. Anybody can do it. It takes 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's not hard at all. I don't have a specific recipe. I just kind of eyeball it. Pinch of that, pinch of this type deal.
And is it something that you do every single time in the house, or maybe?
It's a lazy meal. So like, there's plenty of protein in it. It's got everything. It'll fill you up real nice. But it's tuna, so you don't need a ton of it because it's got mercury in it and stuff. So you don't eat tuna every so often. But when you do, it's great. So I'm gonna start by just putting the tuna in the bowl.
Okay.
Drain the liquid out for the most part, but it doesn't matter.
And what's the name again for the food?
The food? I just call it tuna tacos.
Maybe Robbert Tuna tacos, right?
Yeah. I used to own a restaurant, and my mom made tuna salad, and so I started making just random stuff in that restaurant, and this is like one of those things I came up with. So you just get some tuna in the bowl there, take some mayo, and you just squirt some mayo in the bowl, just like that. Easy, right? Take this and now you can take some of the pickle juice and put in there too if you want to, but I usually just use the pickles later. Depends on how much of a pickle fan you are. I'm just like putting some salt in there. I don't have a specific, I couldn't write this down because I don't have a specific recipe for it. But you just mix it in.
So how long have you been cooking?
How long have I been cooking?
Yeah.
I don't cook that much. Hence how easy this is. But you want it to be like, this is kind of a yellow consistency.
And it's like you're so busy, you have a lot of businesses, and I mean it makes sense, Plus you're a guy, so I don't expect you to be doing too much.
Yeah, I stay busy, that's for sure. This is super easy.
Right, yeah.
Pretty dry still, so we're gonna put some more mayo in it. Like I said, it's not scientific.
Right.
It's really easy.
Easy peasy to save the stomach.
Yeah, you're gonna be surprised. It's good.
Guys, remember the last time I promised you guys that I'll be sending or packaging stuff for you at your homes. But I don't think this is something that I can be able to package. So please, hopefully next time, okay? So bear with me. It's very small. So next time, you make it very big. And just send me your location and I'll send it to you everywhere.
Pretty decent.
Did you put salt? Can I taste it maybe?
Yeah, taste it. And that's really how you make it. You just taste it a little bit, see if you like it. It's not bad, right?
Good, I like it.
Tortilla down. Take a pickle spear right here. Put that down on there. And then you just take the concoction that you made. Now you can make it spicy if you want to add whatever you want to it. But I'm not a spicy fan.
Oh, you don't like spicy food?
No, I'm not a spicy fan. And that's it right there. That's a
Ooh.
That's a taco. Go ahead and try it.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
Easy, super easy.
That's very good.
Yeah. You don't think it would be good, just looking at the ingredients.
It doesn't take very long to prepare or make this meal.
Super quick.
Like 5, 6, 7 minutes. I love it.
And you can buy it just 10 minutes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Robbert, for coming to my kitchen.
Yeah.